Amir is. Amir really has risen to become a champion in the games industry, helping game developers find new opportunities, right, in the wake of kind of all the change we've experienced in the games industry this year, and has just become not just an incredible resource, but just a wonderful supporting voice, incredibly passionate game player, and just all around awesome individual. And on today's show, we're just going to talk about his background, the games that we're playing, explore the games that kind of impacted our lives that we grew up with. We're going to talk about the Amir Awards show that he does at the end of every year, and a whole lot more. So let's go ahead and welcome Amir to the show. And check it out, everybody. It is Amir. How are you today, my friend? Oh,
I'm feeling
yes, of course.
Awesome, Chris. What a just amazing show. And as I said to you, I've just been looking forward to this all week. Just another of the many conversations we have between friends.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I cannot wait. We're going to go ahead. Hey, everybody, lower the volume here for me. Good. So that way we can go and hear him a little better. So I see you've got your Diablo 4 wallpaper on. You have your Diablo hoodie on. I went ahead and made sure I had at least some sort of, Mario Kart or Mario. Since you were such a big Nintendo fan and advocate, I want to make sure that I also came and represented today. Also, for anybody that's on either YouTube or Twitch watching the live stream, make sure if you have a question for me or myself, you go ahead and pop it into the chat, and we're happy to go ahead and get to those as well. So thank you, buddy. Thank you for joining us today.
No, thank you. I feel like you and I could have a conversation 5 times this length, but I'm sure we'll cover as much as we can in this hour. So.
Yeah. We've got an hour set aside. Like you said, I'm not sure if we're going to run afoul of that time limit and maybe stretch out a little bit more, but we'll go ahead and take it as it comes. So, all right. Why don't you share with our audience a bit about who Amir is and the work that you do here at AWS?
Absolutely. So, I'm someone who's been very, very passionate about games since I was a little kid, have played, so many titles, and loved it as someone who wasn't in it professionally. Hope that one day I would finally be in it professionally, and have been at Amazon for this July will be 4 years. And I actually started in AWS as the number 2 for our inside sales and demand generation business in the Americas. Then I actually made it over to that game side. And for 2-3 years was in prime gaming and business development, and then actually in production for our Montreal studio. And when an opportunity came up to go back to AWS, I actually am now the global head of operations for our startup business. And so, but the beating heart of games and the things I do in LinkedIn, as you know, never changes no matter what I'm doing in my day job.
So you wanted to get involved, you found your way back into it, and then through the other work you've done at AWS, right, beyond even just games and the kind of support work that you do here, you really just kind of leaned into your passion around games, video games industry, and started sharing, your thoughts, your perspective, and just really expressing the joy of games, the joy of play in the posts you create on LinkedIn, and started to build this community. So can you talk to us a bit about what you've been doing on LinkedIn, the type of resources that you've put together, and let's go ahead and have at it. So walk us on that journey, my friend.
Well, I had been on LinkedIn for years and years, but something changed last year. As you and I know, Chris, and for so many who I'm sure are listening and watching this, the real horrible layoffs that hit not only our industry, but tech more broadly, didn't really start until more around December, January. But even in November, some jobs had started to get cut. And it was before Thanksgiving. I knew some friends who were having to go sadly to their families to say, I lost my opportunity. And I turned to my wife 3 or 4 weeks before Thanksgiving and I said, this isn't right. I have to do something about this. And so I started out with one resource, which was this jobs directory with, 50 companies. Eventually it grew to over 700 companies, over 13,000 jobs, a mentor network, a LinkedIn and CV network, places people could post to be found by other people who are looking for work. And so that was just kind of organic, and I appreciated that the community responded to it. I helped organize it, but this was gamers helping gamers. But the other piece is, which you're such a great champion for too, is with everything I post, all that job stuff is just one small piece of it, as you know. The other big piece is each day trying to legitimize for anyone loves games and sees themselves as a gamer, that they belong, that they are the mainstream, which, as you know, when we were younger, maybe wasn't true. But I want everyone to feel that way in an outlet like LinkedIn that's so visible.
Yeah, no, so look, I said I had a little surprise for you. So what I want to go ahead and let our viewers see, if you want to go ahead and tap into this incredible resource, and we're going to actually walk through it a little bit later, make sure you go on over and check out the Games Jobs Directory. And this is posted directly on Amir's profile on LinkedIn. And if you follow this URL, which is tinyurl.com, thanks Amir, it will take you directly over to the resources that Amir has set up, and it is incredible. And in a few minutes, we're going to kind of walk through and take a look at the resource that you put together here. But it's that leaning in and making sure that you're part of a community that is helping each other. That is so critically important, right? Our lives are complex and messy, and there's a lot of stuff always going on, but you always manage to find time to bring joy, to bring connection, to build community through the work that you do there. And as somebody who, as you point out, has spent a lifetime in video games, has spent the majority of his career working within the industry and people there, I can't thank you enough for the work that you do to champion the importance of games in our world, and the opportunity for people to continue to work within it and to find new opportunities to connect, build, and grow together. And just really, really awesome work, my friend. Really, really awesome work.
It means a lot, Chris, but it's been really symbiotic. And how many of my heroes have I gotten to meet? I actually first knew of you before we met because of the work you had done with the Smithsonian and all of that work, which was so brilliant. But it's like, I met people who've worked at Monkey Island. I met people at beyond that in Disney, at Blizzard, so, and even beyond that, just all the people who are just in the industry, who are even just gamers. So while I appreciate your kind words and those of so many, I assure you what it's meant to me and what people have put back on me has been 100-fold, truly.
Oh, again, very kind, very, very kind of you. Thank you, buddy. But one of the things you just mentioned, I want to point out, is one of the things that I experienced when I started my career in the games industry back in kind of the late 1990s, is the opportunity to work with my heroes, right? To meet people that created technology, story, engagement, art that, impacted me tremendously growing up. Without video games, I would not be doing the work that I do clearly in the games industry, but I wouldn't even be in the tech industry, right? Because video games fostered a love of computer science and knowledge and programming and storytelling and art that has stayed with me since I was a little kid. And to see the community grow to where it has today, to have people like you out there continuing to champion and stuff, man, it's the best. It's the absolute best. That's right. More air horn. Can't have enough air horns for that, because it truly is. It truly is.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me.
It really is.
So tell me. All right. What was the first video game machine that you had in the home when you were growing up?
The first one I had in our home was the Atari 2600. I had played the Magnavox Odyssey at my cousin's house, but it was playing Asteroids with my parents and grandparents on the Atari.
Hold a minute. Did you say Atari?
Have you played Atari today?
Oh, yes, that one. That one just slaps, right?
Yeah.
Yes, the Atari 2600 or the Atari VCS, the video computer system, as it was first known. But then you said that you had a friend with a Magnavox Odyssey or an Odyssey 2. Is that correct?
Yeah, my cousin had that on the old Magnavox Odyssey. And it's so amazing to think that at one point people used to play, Pong on the screen, and that was considered next gen. That was in my life. It's crazy.
I know. It is an art form that is enjoyed by about a third to half the planet, that has only been in existence within our lifetime. It's just absolutely incredible, right? One of the reasons why I also do preservation work and things like that and advocacy for the industry outside of it is because so many of the people that created the industry are still with us today. So we have the opportunity to tell the true history, to go ahead and make sure that we get the stories right, we get the artifacts right, and we can preserve our history for future generations accurately. There's no other form of media that has ever had that privilege of hindsight and forethought of capturing that history while the inventors of it were still with us. And it's a privilege, right, to be able to do that. So, all right. So the Atari. So tell me again, what was your favorite game on the Atari 2600?
I would have to say Pitfall. I mean, come on, Activision, their big claim to fame and everything. It was so engaging. And it's kind of amazing to think that made all platformers before look primitive, but it's even more amazing that Super Mario made that look primitive when it came out.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. David Crane's, of course, masterpiece by Activision on the Atari VCS. And he was inspired to put Pitfall Harry in a jungle scene after seeing Raiders of the Lost Ark, which were up against another Indiana Jones, probably the final Indiana Jones film coming up soon, right? So Pitfall on the brain, as well as, well, of course, the Indiana Jones game done by Howard Scott Warshaw on the Atari 2600, and, things like Uncharted, right? Anything that gets that Tomb Raider as well, anything that gets that indie vibe, right?
Yeah.
Now, do you still have your original?
Masterpiece.
Oh, yeah. Now, do you still have your original Atari?
No. So as I grew out of consoles, I generally gave them to other members in the family who didn't have them to enjoy them. The only ones I kept my N64 and I kept my SNES. That's it.
Awesome. Well, yeah, you got to go ahead and pay it forward, right? You have to go ahead and pay it forward. All right. So talk to me about some of the games that you're playing today. What are some of the games that you're kind of digging into, and by going by your posts, you're gonna have to whittle down that list, right? Because you are a prolific game player, my friend.
I do play a lot of titles, and usually at any point in time, if you asked, I try to go up and down the stack with some indies and AAAs, VR, mobile, PC, console. But I have to admit now, because historically, this was, I think, the first time in a decade that in 5 weeks, there were 4 or 5 games released that were 88 or higher. And so I'm just trying to catch up, Chris. I'm trying to do Final Fantasy 16. I'm trying to do Diablo 4, Street Fighter, and Tears of the Kingdom. So I'm going bop, bop, boop between each one.
Yeah, but okay, but are you a completionist? Are you expecting to get through all of them? Or are you somebody like myself who likes to taste a lot of different games? I think I can probably count on 2 hands the number of games I've actually played to their full completion.
I would say that in an average year, I try to play between 70 and 90 games. And of those 70, 90 games, I try to take 15 of them to completion. Sometimes it's higher, like 30 or 40, but that's because a lot of them might be indie games that are like 10 hours. The problem is, now is all the top games are like 100 hours long or longer. So it's tough.
70 to 90 games. Now, you mentioned that you're married, you have kids. So does your wife play video games too, or no?
Not. She's never played a video game in her whole life.
Your life force is running out.
You need to go ahead and get her to play. Although, in our home, it's a bit of the same thing too, right? Growing up or working in the games industry and playing all these games, a lot of time my kids are like, oh, that's something that dad does, my wife's just like, keep it all in your office or, to a minimum there. So yeah, I'm pretty much a solo player here in my home as well. So, all right. So Diablo 4, it must be the thing that's most on your mind right now. Tell me about your progress through Diablo 4.
Well, it's been a wonderful game. I think it really realizes that merging together of MMORPG and ARPG in the West, right? We used to get a lot of that in games like Lost Ark, and I would always find ways to get to games like that before Amazon released it. Thank you very much. But to see it in a Western game is very different, and it is very exciting. And so I would say that's really good. I appreciate that after Diablo Immortal, they moved a little bit away from the MTXs that were maybe more heavy in that game. And it's Blizzard really at the top of their game again. I won't say, oh, is it better than this? Is it better than that? I think number one for me for Blizzard will always be World of Warcraft. But I would say if you think about that Mount Rushmore level of great titles, this is, I think, at that level. And that's pretty exciting.
Okay, that is high praise indeed, right? So I have not tucked into Diablo 4 yet because, and I'm embarrassed to say, I still have Diablo 3 on my Switch that I haven't played through yet. And I think I may have gotten like an hour into it and then parked it because of, everything else going on. So I kind of want to go back and finish that. Octopath Traveler as well. Have not completed the first one. So I kind of want to tackle some of those before I get too deep in. But all these other new games just dragging me back in, right? Hogwarts, the new Hogwarts game, just incredible and in a really sense of permanence, right, in place. Of course, as we were talking before the stream started, Vampire Survivors. Yeah. I mean, that has a Tetris-like addiction loop, I think. It is so freaking good and tightly tuned. That Tears of the Kingdom as well. And it's funny. My oldest daughter and her boyfriend, they were over to visit, and he was like, "Oh, here's my progress in Tears of the Kingdom." I'm like, everything is cracked open on the map. I'm like, I think I just got off of the tutorial island.
Yeah.
So, I don't get to play 70 to 90 all the way through, but I admire and appreciate your tenacity and stick-to-itiveness in getting through those.
Well, and a lot has changed too. Per you were mentioning about the kids, you have to make a little bit of adjustments. And a major one I made is I used to play probably half or more of the games I did to 100% completion. Now I really try to do the mindset of truly a reviewer, which is like, I get my 10, 20 hours in there for the main story and I'm out, except for the kind of like 10, 15 key titles. And then of course, others I just have to cut.
Yeah. Now you also go ahead and publish these lists of your favorite games to LinkedIn all of the time. One genre I know that you're super fond of is point and click adventure genre, and specifically Secret of Monkey Island games. And you said that you had a chance to meet somebody that worked on the Secret of Monkey Island games. Can you tell us a bit about that experience?
Oh, it was so exciting. So, a long time ago, before I got into the industry, before we had the pleasure of meeting, I really didn't have many people I knew in the industry at all. And I admit, as I'm sure happens for many who really are passionate but find it hard to enter because it's a competitive industry to enter, the first person who ever reached out to me and told me, I believe in you and you're going to make it, was a gentleman named Craig Derrick. Executive producer at Disney, one of my true heroes, did the special edition for Monkey Island, does done a ton of amazing things in his career, but that's how I first heard of him. And so I wrote a really long post on the history of Monkey Island, which anyone who wants can see as an article on my LinkedIn page. When I wrote that, Craig liked it. The EPs and creators of every single Monkey Island title, except for Ron Gilbert, put a like on it and put a heart on it, put a comment to tell me how much they liked it. And I'm now connected with all of them. Larry Ahern, Sean Clark, all of them. So that was pretty amazing to meet everyone who made every Monkey Island game. And then I even connected with Dave Grossman.
Yes, to Dave Grossman, to the whole team. And Ron Gilbert, we need to go ahead and make sure we get a like from Ron Gilbert on that post. I had the good fortune to meet Ron when we were doing the Art of Video Games exhibition. I interviewed him for the show and for the book that we did, and just an absolute, just privilege to sit with him and to find out his process and how he views games, and of course Tim Schafer as well. We interviewed him as well, and of course if you've ever watched Tim's stuff or read anything he's ever done, Tim is absolutely hilarious. Just a master of storytelling. And in fact, Secret of Monkey Island was one of only 5 playable games we did in the exhibition. And I picked the 5 playable games, one in each era, without any additional input from museum or the public, because I said, for me, these are the games that solidified this type of mechanic or this type of storytelling possibility within that generation. And so Secret of Monkey Island is one of the only 5 playable that actually kind of, was the centerpiece for the exhibition. So I'm a super huge Super Monkey Island fan. Did you play through the new one?
I did. And I tried to personally evangelize everyone I know to fall in love with it. As many who may have watched my annual Game Awards, it was my choice for Game of the Year last year. And I should add, by the way, Ron Gilbert is a super nice guy. Even though I've never met him, when he used to have his ask a question on his website, I wrote it, and I got a super long response back. I couldn't believe it.
Yep. Oh no. Yeah. Ron is just absolutely, absolutely wonderful. And just really, really incredible. We need to get him on the Game Industry Legends series that we also do here at AWS, along with some incredible guests that we've got coming up later this year. So, all right. So you played through Secret of Monkey Island. We talked about some of the big tentpole games. Share with us maybe one or two of the indie games that you find just amazing at capturing your attention right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll say that Dredge was one that I recently talked about. You have a super spooky boat that you take around and you meet characters. It has like light fishing and gathering mechanics. I find I really like a lot of these games that have like an otherness, ethereal, like, but not buddy, whatever the opposite of a buddy comedy is, like a buddy serious horror type of thing. I like that. I like Spiritfarer, those types of games.
Oh, very, very cool. Yeah, really good picks as well. I've just gone back and oh my goodness, now of course I'm going to blank on the name because that's what happens, right? We've got so many other things to talk about. I've been going back and dipping into some other indie games, and one of my favorites of all time, right, is Thomas Was Alone. I think the storytelling and the narrative of that, just to extract so much emotion from geometric shapes. Just absolutely incredible. Oxenfree, that's the one. Going back and playing with that audio mechanic. Yeah, just really incredible. Yeah, if you are a Netflix subscriber, there's a whole slew of indie games that are available to you now. And I do love the Stranger Things games that they did as well. I think they're just wonderful throwbacks to an incredible time, set of mechanics, art, and really, really leans into the generation in which Stranger Things is set. So really, really.
And Poempy's a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, there's so much that we're going to talk about. All right, so a little bit about your past and growing up with games, a little bit about some of the work that you do here, some of the games that you're playing. Maybe if you can share with us before we move on, a little bit about where you see kind of the future of games going. Where do you see, compute cloud and things like that impacting the type of games that we're going forward? Or what would you like to see from the games industry utilizing the types of services, platforms that companies like AWS operates?
Well, it's really exciting. I mean, you can't look at any company now that's not talking about AI and the potential of AI. And in one hand, that's certainly very, very exciting, allowing people to do a lot more, build things out with leaner teams, allow smaller studios with big ideas to become big faster. But of course, the worry you have on the other side is you don't want to just have this glut of people ramming out games that are kind of samey and not very interesting. So I guess my general hope would be that companies are thoughtful about how they can utilize AI to build more greater games, but not displace teams and not just put out more churn.
That needs some applause. That needs a loud round of applause, because I could not agree more with you. I think that the important thing for game developers looking at AI is not how it displaces people, but how it frees up people to create more art, more story, more experience, right, with the resources that you have. And utilizing these next generation platforms, these next generation tools to create efficiencies, to remove some of the friction of content, story, and art creation out of the way. Sometimes even just to unhook, a mental block or a writer's block for these artists, storytellers, designers, and programmers is where I think AI tools are going to have the greatest impact on this art form, right? So once again, it's not about just churning out the same things over and over again. We know what happens. We saw that happen with with the crash of the video games industry in 1982-83, where there was a glut of so much sameness product that came into market that consumers were overburdened, overwhelmed, and underwhelmed by the content that they were then spending hard-earned money on. So it's not just about cranking stuff as fast as you can, but about increasing the quality, the experience, and moments of meaningful engagement that you're trying to provide to your players. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. And it's wonderful to be at a company that is helping to build the underlying platforms upon which these types of efficiencies can be created and offered to game developers. So really exciting future. A lot to go in and dig into there, but we're coming up close to the half hour here. So I want to get over and start talking about some of the work that you've done and shared with the community. So why don't we take a quick pause right there, and we're going to jump over to the other side. Oh, and here we are. Look at that on the other side. Look how fast that happened. Wasn't that great, everybody? Yeah. Yes. All right. So one of the things that I want to go ahead and dig in, I would love for you to go ahead and take our audience through this is this resource that you created on LinkedIn. So here we've got this up and running, and hey, applause. Let's settle down. We have, I know everyone's excited to see Amir, but we've got a lot of stuff to go through. So I know it's going to probably be a little bit hard to read here unless I go ahead and, let's see, do one of these and make this a little bit larger so we can read all these, and I'll scroll around a bit. So if you went and followed that link before, tinyurl.com/thanks Amir, it'll take you to this site. So please walk us through the resource that we're looking at right here.
Sure, absolutely, Chris. So going bottom to top, as we mentioned, all that we used to have when this started back Thanksgiving was number 4, but now we have 5 beautiful resources. So number 1 is the Job Seekers Workbook. What this sought to rectify is that if you're on LinkedIn, unless you're a recruiter and you're looking at people with that tag, it's actually very hard for me to scroll top to bottom and find everybody who's looking for work. What this is anybody can go to a simple Google form, whether they're in games or not, put in a light amount of information about themselves, their roles, their industry, their experience, what they're looking for, and then they go into a list, which I refresh roughly once every quarter, and it usually has anywhere from 1,500 to 2,500 people, so people can be found by hiring managers and recruiters. The second one is mentorship. Anybody who wants to can sign up. They can stop doing it anytime. And you're basically saying that you'll do a 30-minute mentorship conversation with anybody who asks for one. We have people across 18 different functional groups, and we have over 350 mentors. We're getting near 400 now. It's the largest free mentor resource in the world, games or not. The third one is people started having a need for CV and LinkedIn reviews specifically, aside from mentorship. So we built that up as its own resource. This is volunteers who are just willing to do CV, portfolio, and LinkedIn review. And there's over 70 people who've signed up to do that. The last one is the big enchilada of the Game Jobs workbook. You have over 700 companies, over 13,000 jobs. It's the largest directory of games jobs in the world. And now it's effectively a proxy for the games jobs itself. So as it goes up or down, I can see how the employment market is going in games. And finally, a career jobs pack, which I built myself, which has how to do your CV, your resume, how to think about your career, and other resources. And I'm proud to tell you that all these resources combined have led to over 1,200 interviews that I'm aware of, and over 300 people finding jobs specifically from this community only.
Just look. I mean, look, when I talk about you as a champion of the industry, I've never seen anything like this happen. And you took it upon yourself to go ahead and build these resources out to help a community that you care about and love. And it's just really, really fantastic. You know, if we go down here and look at the bottom of the page, I know we keep getting this stupid pop-up. My apologies there. So here we're going to go ahead and start over at the... this is the Start Here page. So you can see if you scroll down into here, the type of job functions, the total number of jobs available. And so when you're thinking about, look, if you're looking at an opportunity to get into the games industry, and you start to think about where you may fit, you may not know even how to go ahead and get in the industry. Remember that video games, just like every other endeavor, requires a whole bunch of different expertise across a wide range of tools. So you don't have to be a designer, you don't have to be a musician, you don't have to be, a a modeler or anything else like that. If you want to get into games, business intelligence and data and analytics, communications, PR policy, I would say the one prerequisite is gotta love games, right? Because you are going to be working on enabling the art and story and music and experience that video games represent, and moving out into a world where video games, quite honestly, are at a disadvantage to most other forms of media because, when you produce a movie, you create a movie, you have all of this technology that goes into the creation of that movie. But when the movie's done, right, and that video file is now ready to be distributed, none of that technology is part of the engagement in or the viewing of that movie. Video games are not that way. And that's the same way for books, for music, for photography. But video games are different in that you're building something on the Unreal Engine. It's using the core of the Unreal Engine to run on a device. So we don't get to extract the technology, which means that we have to go ahead and enable cross-platform, cross-device, cross-infrastructure opportunities for video games to operate. And those are big risks, right? So not only have video games grown to become the most, one of the most, if not the biggest form of media engagement in the world in only 50 years, it has all of these other hurdles that they have to overcome to be experienced that no other form of media does. And once again, even with those hurdles, we're still the best. Isn't that right? Yay, that's exactly right. So if you're not a modeler, you're not a musician, you're not a programmer, don't worry, there's plenty of opportunity in the games industry too. So you can start in here, take a look at the total jobs that are available across the board here. If we pop into the next tab here, what are we looking at here, Amir?
So what's interesting, Chris, hitting a few things at once here is, this is now each company. So I had to solve a few challenges that I saw that didn't exist in other resources. The first is you don't know how recently the jobs were edited. I maintain an SLA of 30 days or less. On average, I keep every piece of data here 10 days or better, so you know it's recent. And for each one, you can say what day it was last edited. Green, yellow, and red shows you, I show the top 5 locations of where the jobs are edited, located, forgive me, all the way on the right, whether it's remote, hybrid, or totally on-site. So you can know, well, can I apply to this if I can't move? The final challenge is cleaning up the jobs. So if you look at, 740 companies, which we have here, and you took the ways that they categorize jobs, you would find over 800 different categories of what they call different roles. I mashed those into 21 categories by taking the 800 categories. So now they're all apples to apples, and we can look at them in the same category. But that's not easy because, for example, someone may have a technical director job, and in their site, they put it under production. Another may have technical director and they put it under engineering. So I had to write algorithmic rules to do that, get rid of duplicate rules and so forth. But this is completely clean. And I do it through a system of semi-automated scraping so that I pull all the data down from each company's site directly. So I'm not relying on anything but their own data.
Just incredible. And again, the amount of work that you put into this it really can't be overstated just how important, what you've put together here. Just really an incredible resource. I've never seen anything like it before. And then you have these things broken down by, what are we looking at here? Some administrative facilities and office management.
I beg your pardon, Chris. Yeah, no, these are functional tabs. And so this came, again, this is why it's symbiotic with the community, right? The community asked for things and I added them. The community asked for, location, for those colors. The community then said, Amir, this is all really, really great. But let's say I'm, go ahead and click on the audio one if you would, Chris. Someone's like, oh, I'm in audio. This is great, Amir, but I'm only interested in audio. But now you can click on the audio tab. These tabs auto break down the roles. So this is only the roles within audio in the spreadsheet. So now if you're like, I want to apply, all you have to do is go to this tab and you're ready to apply. You see the number of jobs by company, by work flexibility, and their career sites. So you just go there and apply.
Just incredible. And so you have these all broken down, biz and corp dev, sales and strategy, business intelligence data. I mean, tabs and tabs and tabs. of opportunity here. So if you are doom scrolling through LinkedIn, stop doing that. Make sure you head on over again, tinyurl.com/thanks Amir, and make sure you go ahead and check this out. This should be your first stop on the road to finding your next opportunity in the games industry. I love that you know, things like localization and translation, marketing brands, and if we go all the way down to writing and narrative, right? One that, you know, smaller number of them, but really hard to find, as you know, if you're a writer. So even if you hadn't been in the industry before or thinking about getting it, this is your number one stop to, you know, as you're looking at getting into games. So again, Amir, just really an incredible job. The career, the job pack, I want to go ahead and, oh, you know what? That's going to probably have me open that in a separate tab. All right, I'm going to leave that for our audience to go ahead and check out. Make sure you go ahead and do that. The mentorship list, my apologies. I've had a couple of people reach out to me. I'm on the mentorship list as well. I need to get back to them and make sure that I connect with them. You know, a lot of stuff going on all the time, but I want to make sure that I follow through on those commitments to those folks and help in any way that I can. So make sure you go ahead and check out the mentorship stuff. Your CV and LinkedIn review, just really incredible. So Amir, thank you so much once again for putting this together. We love you for it, buddy. Really fantastic job. Really fantastic job. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and move on here to talk a little bit more about Amir himself. You know, so I talked about the Amir Awards. For those of you that haven't had the opportunity to experience the Amir,
I'm so thrilled to celebrate the video game industry.
Here we are with the 2022 Amir Awards with that amazing suit that you have on there. That is just fantastic. I love it. Talk to us while we are listening here to the Amir Awards. Tell us a little bit about the Amir Awards and how this started.
It's really funny, Chris. So when I was a little kid, probably in like second or third grade, I started with like, you know, one award, 2 awards, whatever it was, for my parents and for myself, ranking the games that I had played on the NES and doing an award show. And as time went on and I got older and more mature, by the time I was in like high school, I was making full-blown lists in Excel that I used to track every single game I've ever played, what I thought of it, how I categorized that. And so I started doing these awards for myself, basically for fun. And I've been doing this for years. Finally, about the same time that I was doing some of the jobs resources that you and I were talking about, a number of my friends were like, Amir, wouldn't it be fun if you took what you've been doing for years basically for yourself and you turned it into an actual formal show for everyone? So I did it last year. It was a lot of fun, and I couldn't have been more touched by like the community's response. We had a nice live chat to it, and it was just so much fun.
Oh, and you really amped it up. I mean, from the set dressing to the nominees and explaining how this worked, you went ahead and, you know, brought in, you know, video clips. So as somebody who also does media work and edits a lot of stuff, I know what a job this is to put this stuff together. So I was amazed at the amount of work that you put into creating the Amir Awards. They're really awesome. If you haven't watched them, make sure you do. Also, yeah, Trombone here, it's just, when that game popped up, I was like, oh my God, this is just the most stupidly awesome thing I've ever seen. I absolutely love it. And the fact that you're using, you know, all of the public domain music and stuff to fill it out. Small indie developers, indie devs. I love my friends at the big game companies too. Don't get me wrong. The new Jedi Survivor stuff, the Hogwarts stuff, absolutely crazy. But so many of the wacky, unexpected moments of delight that come out of indies is just really incredible. So you had this, and then we went right into award one. So let's go and watch one of Amir's award presentations here.
Action or action adventure are Elden Ring,
I'm gonna pipe some sound effects.
C2.
Oh yes, there we go.
Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Tunic,
One of my cousins was like, "It's so funny how you
Ollie
look so
Ollie
surprised
World.
and excited for each award, even though you knew who was
God
winning."
of War, Ragnarok.
Exactly. That's a little bit of that Amazon delivery effect of, oh, this box is on my doorstep. What could it be? The thing you ordered yesterday. Here we go. You even have envelopes, and the first thing I noticed when I saw it, I'm like, he's like struggling with to open it.
Elden Ring.
Yay! Elden Ring one. Really, really fantastic. So definitely go check out the Amir Awards. I'm super excited to see what you do for 2023. And like I said, anything that I can do to be involved, I'm all in it, buddy. So, you let me know how I can help. And then make sure you go ahead and check out, the video stuff that Amir does on his channel, Amir Big Al Satvat, which I love. Really, really fantastic. I mean, you are also a musician. You play the piano, and I love the mini concerts that you wind up doing with video game music and just sharing your love of video games through yet another artistic medium. Really, just amazing, man. Really, really amazing and prolific output here. So, yeah, you go. Look at all these concerts here.
I appreciate it, Chris. No, it's really fun. Now I use it. I actually, before LinkedIn, I often think YouTube was like my trial run because I did it like kind of small stakes. I had like 4,000 or 5,000 subscribers. Now I mostly use it to post out stuff that I can't put on LinkedIn because, as you know, we hit the 15-minute limit.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. All right, so let's go. Make sure you go ahead and check out all of his stuff at Amir Satvat on YouTube. So make sure you go ahead and check out his stuff there. All right, so the next thing we were going to go ahead and do is we're going to jump over to a little bit of gameplay. So you mentioned, this incredible game right here. Let's talk a little bit about your favorite games, and I will do my best to pull them up out of my library here. So tell me, let's see. Let me go ahead and stop the audio. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there's that little, we're dropping down here. Now, were you one of those kids when you were playing games like Pitfall, where you went backwards across, if you go backwards, you can grab the gold for the first time? Or did you try to go ahead and play it as Mr. David Crane intended?
I was not a backwards person. I always just went forwards. I thought that if I went far enough, I'd eventually make it to the end.
Yep. All right. Give me another one. Give me another Atari VCS game that lit up your brain. I've got one of my favorites too. And the creator of this game happens to work at AWS as well.
Oh my.
Yes.
Well, the other one that I played like crazy with my father was Pole Position.
Oh, yes. Okay. All right. Let's see.
Game.
Do we have Pole Position here? Now, what I love about playing these games in the era in which we did, right, was they were approximations of what we were experiencing in the arcades, right? It's got the music there. It's a little bit out of tune, memories. Right? And there we go. So there's a little bit of Pole Position. Of course, I decided to go ahead and do this with a standard joypad instead of using a paddle. So, hey, thanks a lot for going ahead and suggesting that. Right? Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and stop this one. Give me another one. Give me one more Atari VCS one. What's another big one?
Do you have Millipede?
Do I have Millipede?
Or Centipede?
Let me see. Do I have Millipede? I think I might. Are you referring to this game? Yes, Millipede, of course.
The best arcade game ever after Robotron.
Oh! Now, did you say that for me, or is that truly what you believe? Is Robotron really...
Oh, no, that's truly what I believe.
Oh, my God. Yeah, this needs every... That needs every sound effect that I've got on this board. Because that is my number
Eugene
one.
Jarvis.
Yeah, Eugene Jarvis is a genius, and it is my favorite video game of all time. And what I love, I have a Robotron machine here in my house, and what I loved about showing off Robotron is, my kids' friends would come over and go, what's this thing? You go, well, go ahead and try it. And then they would touch 2 joysticks and then die. Touch them again and then they die, and they're like, how do you play this? I'm like, because games were hard when we were kids, right? Like if you can hit that level 10 or above on Robotron, you've got some serious ass skills. So
That was a tough game. You know what else was really great like that? Joust.
Joust was as well, and Joust had a wonderful, elegant flow to it that when you learned how to go ahead and actually skip your ostrich right off of a platform and be able to continue to use that momentum to then go ahead and hit multiple enemies. Once you started learning those techniques, you get in that flow state. Oh my goodness gracious, really, really fantastic. But I am going to share with you another. This is one of my favorite ones. This is a game called Mega Mania. Oh, I have it in black and white mode right now. This game was done by Steve Cartwright. This is one of my favorite games. This is a desert island game for me. By the way, I'm looking at a separate monitor off screen to make sure there is no lag, so I can't blame my poor performance on lag, right? So he works here at AWS, believe it or not.
That's
and
so cool.
And he was somebody who I was able to interview as well for the Art of Video Games. And it was great one day. You know, you never know who we're going to see, you know, in the halls here at AWS. And one day on Slack, it was just, oh, hey, what are you doing here? And I was like, what are you doing here type of thing, right? But if you've never played Mega Mania, oh my goodness, one of the greatest Atari VCS. I keep going to VCS because that's how I grew up, kids, knowing what that machine was. But yeah, Mega Mania, ooh, such a good game.
Nice
All right,
pick. Nice.
give me another console. What's another console that is near and dear to you?
Have SNES?
Let me see. Let me change this over here. Okay, so while I'm doing this, I figured that's what it was going to be. Tell me what games on the SNES.
So how about you
your
can pick
fancy.
any one of two games that are amongst my top 10 games of over 2,300 played. So you could pick either Link to the Past, which is number 2, or Super Mario World, which is number 4.
All right. Yeah, so probably with Super Mario World, it would be a little bit easier to demonstrate some of that while we're talking here versus
yes.
Link to the Past. But yeah, Super Mario World, I also apologize that, you know, I've got it in a 4x3 here and I've got it stretched out here in my capture card. But you can still see, right?
Beautiful.
So, and I'm playing this, of course, on a more modern SNES inspired gamepad. But yeah, this game, when it hit, oh my goodness, it just hit all the right buttons and music. We hadn't heard music like that before. Although the Genesis, right, is near and dear to my heart too. But different type of music, different timbre, right, of music that we'd listen to. But yeah.
No, and having the robust overworld, having the secret exits, seeing Yoshi for the first time in a mainline series game, but just
Yeah, and when you were a little kid and you first went ahead, well, not in my case, but and you picked up that the red shell first, and then went ahead and hit them all in a row. You were like, oh my goodness, look at that! I was able to go and take all of them at once. Yeah, Super Mario World, of course. How about an obscure one? Are there any obscure SNES games that really kind of?
I really liked. Let me think here. Obscure titles. You know, here's one that might be obscure to some people who didn't grow up when we did. Another launch title for SNES, Pilot Wings.
Oh, yes. All right. Yeah,
I love Pilot Wings. Underrated.
Let's go ahead and pull up a little Pilot Wings, and then let's talk about what we're actually seeing on the screen, which I think is really, really cool. So do I have, let me see. Hold on, let me grab this. All right. No,
And if you don't have Pilot Wings, we can do F-Zero.
And not, you know, you don't want to see me play that game because I'm terrible at F-Zero. Although maybe not. All right, let me see. No, I don't think I have Pilot Wings here.
Do you have Super Metroid?
Yeah. I mean, how can you can't not have Super Metroid, right? That is one of the the most iconic ones, right? So definitely we got a little Super Metroid action popping up in here. So when that hit too, I'm gonna
That's
stop.
beautiful.
You ought to hear. Yeah, when you hear that music too, and right there. I'm gonna even crank that up a little bit more. Yes, no data, of course, there because I haven't played it forever. So there we go. And there's a little is
The
in
last
captivity. The
Metroid
galaxy
is
is
in captivity. The galaxy is at peace.
Yeah, let's go ahead and blast through that. It's
That
gonna
was
take
an
us to the
amazing
whole
first
opening
player.
there.
But you know what I was going to say while this loads up? What was amazing about the SNES 2 is they made it so easy to have 4 controllers native. And so the other thing I remember is all the games that I played with friends, some well-known, some obscure, like the arcade port of NBA Jam, Super Bomberman. I even remember, you want a super obscure game, Bill Laimbeer's Combat Basketball.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, that one is an obscure pick. Oh my goodness gracious, yes. Bill Laimbeer's Combat Basketball. That always reminds me of I believe it was The Simpsons, right? Lee Trevino's Fighting Golf, sort of thing. Hey, we do have a question that came in here on YouTube. Hey, guys, I got a question for you. So games like Overwatch, etc., I believe some of this is hosted within AWS. How do they do this? Do they use ECS? Is one of the questions that popped in here. Well, yes, a lot of large companies that operate on AWS's platforms utilize a wide variety of services and offerings that AWS provides, including things like ECS. Specifically around Overwatch, that is not something that I'm as familiar with around that specific title, but if you head on over to our Game Tech website and the AWS properties, you'll be able to go ahead and find out more information about the type of services that we operate. But yeah, when we talk about the type of games that are running on AWS, from the very, very large, right, like Fortnite, to the very, very small, like supporting independent game developers. AWS provides technology services and offerings to help any developer of any size and utilize cloud for their development, deployment, and operation journeys. So won't go ahead and go into exactly what's happening on any one of those particular games, but suffice to say, yes, these companies avail themselves of the services and offerings that AWS provides. So maybe not exactly the answer you wanted, but that's the answer that I got. So, yeah, so Super Metroid, really amazing game. If you haven't played it, definitely you have an interest in classic video games, for sure. Make sure you tap into the Metroid series of games. Really, really fantastic. So, all right, I know that we're gonna run out of time, so it says, hey, thanks, I appreciate the feedback. Hey, my pleasure. Thank you for there's a little coin, and thanks for asking, RDF. Appreciate you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and actually move off of this game here, because I'm going to go pull up something that I think I showed you before we started here, but I know it's one of your favorite games. And so I've got my keyboard at the ready, and I love diving into classic game backlog of content. And so hang on with me for 1 second while I go ahead and fire this one up, because this is a good one. This is a really good one. All right. Okay, let us see. So now I've got this, I have this 486 emulator, because I do not have a Intel 46 based machine kicking around here. Truth be told, I do. It's just not connected and up here. So I am forced to go ahead sometimes and utilize emulators, right, to be able to experience some of the games from our youth. So let me go ahead and start this up, and then let's see if we can identify what this is.
Oh my.
Yeah,
Monkey
buddy.
Island
Yes.
2. Beautiful.
That one is for you because I know what
Thank
a
you.
Secret of Monkey Island fan you are. And of course, this is Secret of Monkey Island 2. And really, really just an amazing game. And like I said, it was, Monkey Island was one of the only games that we included in the Art of Video Games as playable because it was truly funny. The writing was incredible. The set pieces were awesome. And one of my favorite gags, of course, in the beginning, right, is when you walk into the scum bar, not obviously in Monkey Island 2, LeChuck's Revenge from the first one, and you walk into the scum bar and you meet the pirates for the first time, and there's one pirate sitting in the corner, and you ask him a question, he just goes, "Aye." And you ask another question, he goes, "Aye." And he's wearing this giant button that says, "Ask me about Loom." And by the time you exhaust all of the regular questions, you ask about Loom, and he goes, "Loom, do you mean the incredible masterpiece by Brian Moriarty, the genius at..." And he goes into this like 8 or 9 screen response about Loom. It ends, and he's back to just, "Aye. Aye," which is great. And that was just really wonderful about that era. The game industry, for as large as it is from an economic perspective, from a global reach perspective, it's still a very small industry. A lot of the people that started working on games still work on games today. And so a lot of people know each other. A lot of people have worked for each other at one point in time. And so you'll find today still people have in-jokes with each other in their games, even across company lines, which just makes it an absolute joy, right, to work.
No, it really is, Chris. And the reason I love that you brought back Secret of Island, and I can't tell you how much it meant to me that you did choose that after one of the 5 games, even after all this time, is I love games where they're on different levels. You can just play Monkey Island, and it's like, I don't know if any of this context, and it's this really great, clever game. But to your point, if you grew up with, as we did, for like almost 10 years, of all the adventure games that had come before it, Secret of Monkey Island really pops if you had played all the Westwood and Sierra great in their own right games, and you saw how it was the anti-adventure game to all the stuff they had been doing.
Yep. No, that's exactly right. And it wasn't, you are exactly right. And we go all the way back to the original MUDs. We go back to the text adventure games. We go back to the Wizardry series, right? All these sorts of games that are kind of adventure based, and the industry kind of feeling its way forward, right? To figure out how to best utilize computer technologies to create this artwork. And then we got into this era of VGA graphics, right? Or EGA graphics, right? We had CGA, then we had EGA graphics. Now everything you're looking at here is a 16 color screen. And so we had to work with those limitations to kind of craft it forward, but more memory, faster processors, more colors on screen, higher resolutions. Let us tell more of the story. Let us create more in-depth, right, experiences. And so it's not any one thing popped. It is an evolution and a honing of the craft, a honing of the storytelling that we see along the continuum. And what I love, we work or we live in a world now where technology is so high performance and so low cost relative to what it used to be, that now we can tell the breadth of any story that human beings want to tell through video games. And we don't have to necessarily compromise in the level of detail to tell them, which means that artists start limiting themselves. Artists start going ahead and creating new experiences by imposing the limitations on themselves to create new forms of art. And like I said, with with Thomas Was Alone, to get you emotional about the plight of these geometric shapes in a platforming puzzle game, and getting emotionally attached to their character through the narrative, it's just incredible, right? And so it is about story. It is about seeing humanity reflected in the games that we play. That really brings out the humanity embedded within them. And I love it. I absolutely love it. So yeah, if you've never played a Secret of Monkey Island game, they're on just about every platform. They're hilarious, and the new one is absolutely incredible. So I know this is one of your favorites. This is why I had to go ahead and pull it up before we were going to wind up today.
No, it's wonderful, Chris. And I have to say that one quick counterpoint to what you were saying, which was really well said, is the challenge now is people limiting themselves. But I also loved about the old games, it reminds me the composer Haydn worked in a court where he was relatively more isolated from other composers. And he said, because I had to, I made myself become more innovative because I had to like not go crazy, to have variety. And so it's so interesting to me how when they had those limitations, they couldn't do MMORPGs, they couldn't do whatever, how the game designers in that adventure era still found creativity with what was available to them. I think that's interesting.
Oh, 100% agreed. I'm going to bring up one more game. If you don't mind, if you can hang with me for a few more minutes as we go ahead and wrap up. I want to bring up one other game where we demonstrate, right, that demonstrates rather, those limitations and how you work within them. And I just absolutely love this. Let me see if I have this one. Maybe not. We are going to find out. So, let's see. Where is it? I don't know if I have this on this system, and I am now just singing.
You're really curious now.
And I'm just singing through this as I look for this game. You know, I could probably also play some music or.
Where I live.
Oh yeah, that's Sinistar saying, "What are you doing, man? Come on." Yeah, I don't think I have it here. But basically, the game that I was thinking of is Halo 2600. So Halo 2600 was a demake, right? We call it in the games industry, where Ed Fries, the gentleman who was part of the team that launched the Xbox, he launched Microsoft Game Studios and was one of the instrumental figures in actually acquiring Bungie at Microsoft to bring Halo right to the platform. When he left Microsoft and he went off to apply his brilliance to a variety of other opportunities, he actually, I'm going to move us over to the other screen, so we're not just looking at a game loading screen for a game that's not going to load. And people have enough time to also look at that tinyurl.com. Thanks, Amir. So make sure you go ahead and check that out for the Games Job Director resource. But anyway, so what Ed said, you know, when he left is he wanted to really kind of flex those development muscles again. So he went back and started programming for the Atari VCS or the 2600. And he created a game that has all of the basic elements in Halo. There's Master Chief, right? There's all the enemies. Well, not all of them, but enemies that you expect. It has an image of the ring world on the front, on the loading screen. It has loading music. And what Ed said was programming for the VCS was like writing poetry because every character matters. Every syllable matters, right? The economy of expression that you have to discipline yourself to create these experiences is extraordinary. And that's what I love. You know, we talk about posing limitation itself. Let's go put Halo 2600, or let's go put Halo into the Atari 2600. And damn it, he did it. And it works on original Ataris. If you can get a hold of one, it'll actually, you plug it into your 1977 Atari VCS and it works. Really, really fantastic. Really, really fantastic. So I know we're at the top of we're a little bit past the hour. We did have one other comment from RDF over here on YouTube that said, what would be really awesome, Chris, is if you could do a live stream showing people how to configure AWS for games and maybe build a very basic game or etc. And I have to say, brilliant idea. And yes, you can expect some additional program beyond Rewind, right? Rewind is where we dig back into retro games, the games that kind of shaped who we are today. But some new programming is going to be coming up that will teach you how to utilize AWS's technologies, services, and platforms to create those games. And maybe digging in to go ahead and create a simple game live is a challenge that we're going to go ahead and take on. So thank you for the suggestion. And yeah, you may see that in the not too distant future here. So thanks for that. So Amir, thank you so much, buddy. And give a round of applause for Amir for joining us today. If you have any parting words of wisdom that you would like to share with our audience, please enlighten us.
All I can say is that Everybody is a gamer. If you're someone who doesn't believe you can find a job in the games industry, you can. I didn't do it until 37. So if you beat that, you did better than I did. And always, I will say, please remember that everybody is also gamers. Please be inclusive. Everybody belongs in games. Don't be toxic, and be a good gamer. Be the type of gamer that everyone can be proud of.
I love that message. I love that message. And this is why you and I and Amir and I were talking that when we first met, it's like sometimes you meet people and you're like, I feel like I've known this guy for 20 years, you know, because I always believe we cannot claim to be an art for all if all voices are not included.
Yes.
And that is the real opportunity ahead of us. We have the ability to tell the stories that cover the breadth of humanity in a way that is more engaging and deeper and emotional than pretty much any other form of media that we have. And so it is up to all of us to throw our arms open wide, allow those voices to be heard, allow the stories to be told. And it's one of the things that I'm proud that we do at AWS, which is to help game developers get the technology out of the way so they can make more art, make more story, build better games. So you got it right on the money, my man. So thank you so much. Once again, Amir, thank you so much for joining us today here on Rewind. And thank you all for spending your Friday afternoon with me and Amir here on Rewind. Remember, if you are a game developer from indies to AAAs, make sure you head on over to aws.amazon.com/GameTech to find out all the tools, technologies, platforms, and offerings that we provide to help you on your cloud gaming journey. And special shout out again, thanks to Waterflame for the use of his music here on Rewind. Make sure you check out his catalog of music on his YouTube site at Waterflame Music. And of course, if you care about the history of video games, preserving it for future generations, make sure you head on over to the Video Game History Foundation at gamehistory.org. I happen to be a founding board member of this 501c3 organization, and once again, they are doing incredible work to preserve video game history for future generations. And that wraps up this episode of Rewind. I want to once again thank you all for spending your Friday afternoon with me. Make sure you check out Rewind every Friday, 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern. Have an awesome rest of your day, an incredible weekend, and we will see you next week on Rewind.